So here we are, another month of gaming is in the rear view, and as we're settling into a new year, we're also able to increase the cadence of time at the table. February, as I'm sure you're aware, is an abridged month, but only slightly in this here Year of the Leap. Thank you, Mr. Caesar. It was interesting to see both new and old card games get some love, and a whole host of random board games touch me on the fun bone too. This being the second month we've done this, we'll now break down these videos into two sections. First is the games I've never talked about in this format, and so we'll lean more towards the world's shortest overview reviews, with only a smattering of subjectivity, and then those that I've already covered, leaving me to get a bit more personal and anecdotal on each. So please join me as we start with the former and then finish with the latter. As All is one of my go-to family weight tile placement games, but really it is about the tile drafting. You'll pick all of a certain type of tile to place on your player board, and any that you don't pick go into a central pool that can also then be chosen from. This hub will subsequently ebb and flow with differing types and quantities of tiles, which when drafted get placed on your player board. With each row you're looking to fill, needing a differing amount before they slide over onto your permanently tiled wall. To be honest, the main source of pleasure is derived from that tension of will I get the most optimal tiles I want come my turn. There's enough light decision making to add to that, and for those simple reasons this remains a semi-frequently played evergreen game suitable for the family. Coffee Roaster is, even for those that don't enjoy a good cuppa, an absolutely stellar solo-only game. A bag builder that's laced with push your luck elements is a game enhanced by its elegant and tight design. You'll be pulling coffee bean tokens from your bag every turn, and the majority of them will increase in bean strength each go round. Others you'll want to expel from your bag, and then there's some that enable special actions to further enhance your bag of beans. You'll repeat this process until you're happy with what's in your sack, and then get to seeing whether you've crafted the perfect roast by drawing beans one final time in efforts to complete your objectives. There's other bells and whistles here, but if you like bag builders and you're happy in your own company, then this is a winner. Dice Throne has such a delicious mechanical premise of combining a dueling game with Yahtzee style dice rolling, and whilst it fell short of being perfect, it's a great system nonetheless. At the start of the game you'll pick a class, each having their own sets of skills you can use to decimate your opponent's life total. After 3 rolls of the dice you'll be looking for small or large straights, 3 other kinds here, full houses there, and then selecting an attack or action each turn. There's some card play in there to boost your resources and engage in a bit of take that, but this is just a really well presented game I don't necessarily want to play all the time, always gets a kick out of getting it to the table when I do. Dinosaur World is another imperfect game, but one that I enjoy despite its shortcomings, because the theming is all sorts of Jurassic Park. One obvious attraction is that it's a bit of a beast getting it to the table. But this task I achieved in the second month of the year, in part because the allure of adding hexagon tiles to my growing park, placing dinosaur exhibits and other attractions for me to interact with at the end of each turn, was something I had to experience again. Despite its expansiveness, this is mostly just a game of managing your resources, here in the form of money and DNA, and then crafting a park that's high on wow and excitement, but also provides a commensurate amount of security to ensure that things don't go awry like they do in the movies. If you have an interest in dinos, then this is definitely worth a look. I'd played Disney's Lorcana before, but before it officially came out, so it was interesting to see cards this time from the first expansion as well. This dueling card game is pitched at the lower end of the complexity spectrum, but it still does a lot with it. There's some nice mechanics on display here. The play any cards, or at least most cards in this instance, as a resource for your turn is still the best way to do resource management in dueling games in my opinion. Pursuing the win con of getting 20 lore that exposes your characters to being attacked is something else a little bit different. And of course, if you're a Disney fan, then there's little to complain about the production. Alas, the lack of interactivity is, I suspect, what will curb the popularity of this game for more seasoned gamers such as myself. But I won't ever mind giving someone a game of this, and I suspect its sales and popularity suggest none of my caveats matter too much in the grand scheme of things. Distilled is moderately difficult to describe mechanically. Thematically, it's just an excuse to make different types of alcohol, which I'm sure a decent chunk of the potential consumer base can get behind. I suppose its light footprint of set collection is its main mechanical hook. You're looking to produce a certain cocktail of ingredients to make your tipple of choice. But whenever you shuffle your cards together and discard the top and bottom cards, there's no guarantee of that happening. So stacking the odds in your favour, getting specialists and equipment to help you is the name of the game then, and flogging your booze and accruing the most points is the aim. From a new publisher, this is a ruddy good game, and very well produced to boot. So raise a glass and don't spill it on the components. Doppelt So Clever is also Gone Schon Clever Part 2, and as of the speaking of these words, the second of 4 of these quite excellent numbers based roll and write games. Again, Yahtzee-esque dice rolling will see you picking dice to mark off one of the 5 sections of your player pad, each with their own criteria for fulfillment and means of accruing points. If you pick a high numbered dice, then any lower numbers get discarded, and then you get to re-roll everything else. Doing this, you'll be marking off the results of 3 dice one at a time in what amounts to a delightful puzzle and muchos enjoyment. 5 Tribes is the first thematic game I can recall playing with the ancient game of Mancala's mechanics at its core. Pick all the meeples up from a space on the 5x5 grid and then move one space at a time, dropping one meeple off in each space you pass through until you get to your intended destination, where you finally pick up all of the meeples of the same colour as the last one you brought along for the ride. Each type of meeple then fulfills its action of placing palm trees or palaces, assassinating other meeples, or then different means of straightforward points grabbing. Honestly, the joy derived from thematic Mancala definitely exceeded my expectations. Yes, it's a bit of a hassle setting it up, but it's a great deal of abstract puzzle style fun that's ultimately delivered. Okay, intermission time. Me trying to overview all of these games I'm playing each month is taking too much time. I'm keeping this in the edit because for the rest of this video I'm going to shorten the time I talk about each game, and you can let me know what you think. Now look into my eyes. I've just subliminally convinced you that less is more. When you wake up, you will not notice anything untoward has happened. And 3, 2, 1, intermission over. Gaia Project is a heavier space-based Euro than your average bear, but its rewards are ample. There's tech trees, there's exploration, there's all sorts of getting your head around what you want to do this turn and the next few. Assessing the unusual resource mechanic, which harvests for a couple of turns and then pays off, is all sorts of tricky. But take the time and effort, and this is how strategic and rewarding you want a heavyweight classic to be. Gardeners is a visual puzzle game with communication limits between you and the other players. You have a clue each round as to the layout of the tiles in front of you, and so then without saying a word you need to take out certain tiles from the already established tableau, give a nod and a wink, and let the other players logic out where every tile needs to go to form the pattern on your objective. I liked it, my brain hurt after a while playing it. A pseudo filler game then, not bad. Heat Pedal to the Metal is my current favourite racing game, at least serious racing game, using cards and deck building to determine how far you move on the racetrack. You can push your luck by using the titular heat to your advantage, but when it comes back to bite you, you'll need to take it easy round the corners to cool down your deck of cards. I really appreciate using cards as the tool for variance and pushing your luck. I just feel like it's able to do a better job than dice. Props well deserved. Living Forest was being auditioned to lead my collection, as it does a lot good, but no one particular thing that stands out. Whether it's the push your luck, the different ways to trigger the endgame and win, the race round and action bonus track, the deck building that ties into the push your luck. This fantasy nature themed game is still easy to recommend for all the good it does, even if it's not likely to be long for my collection. Magic the Gathering, the dueling card game to beat all dueling card games. There may be the new hotness at any given time, but the core of this game and how it's been built upon, for better or worse over the years, will always be something I come back to. It's a modern classic, and will, I suspect, be played by millions for as long as Wizards of the Coast or someone else has the IP. Yes, it is that good. I just hope it stays relevant in paper format for many years to come. Orleans is a pure bag builder, and one that I picked up the Invasion expansion for just so I could play the solo scenarios, and despite not being a big fan of expansions, I was happy I could play an official on your lonesome version of this quite excellent game. One that's predicated on obtaining different types of workers, in so doing progressing on the relevant tracks and finding all the ways to gobble up points. It must be said there aren't many, if any, dry Euro bag builders this good. Point salad has forced me to try and figure out who coined the term point salad, and I can't find out. Truth be told, this isn't really that point salady. It's an open drafting set collection game that has a really very simple and clever use of double-sided cards. One side denoting a point score and objective, and the other the ingredients required to meet the objective. Still, this is such an enjoyable filler game that has always seen semi-frequent table time since its release. The Star Trek Ascendancy tears me up. Not because it's bad, but because it reminds me of the serious dearth in quality of Trek games out there. And this, the most highly rated game of its ilk on BGG, is a minimum 3 players just to make things even trickier. The exploration is fun and slightly adjacent to anything else I've played. With its semi-free flowing galaxy that develops as you play, there's enough different here in each playthrough, and with its different factions for this to be worthy of its splendid IP. And Trek's arch nemesis, well, not really, Star Wars got a hype release in March. I was able to get some gameplay in against the bot in a fan-made browser version of Star Wars Unlimited, which shares some lineage with one of my favourite games ever, Star Wars Destiny. Here though, just the card play sees you engaging in 2 fields of battle, on the ground and in space. It's too early to say how great this game can be, but I'm already contented to proclaim that it is indeed a very good game. Not as good as the Lord of the Rings trading card game, mind you, but then that would take a lot of doing in my humble opinion. This deck construction game that sees you incorporate both free peoples and shadow cards in equal measure in your deck is an all-time favourite. Push your luck when you operate as the free peoples on your turn, and the more resources you expend as you aim to get to the end location first, the more your opponent has to play with to use their shadow cards. Just ingenious design. I'm just so glad this game still has exemplary stewards in the Players' Council, and a means to play the game in a browser. Twilight Struggle, oh my, this was a struggle. There's a lot to unpack here in this card-driven pseudo-war game of push and pull. I'm not sure this is ever going to tick enough boxes for me to really rave about. I can see all the reasons why it's a game that's revered as a classic, and I can also see that being good at it would be immensely rewarding. Let's just see if I have the patience to get to that point though, because this is a game you really need a good few playthroughs to get a handle on. And that completes the "This is the first time I've journaled these games" section of the video. Please join me for a much shorter synopsis now of my progress and adventures in games I've already pontificated about. Cat Lady is the game seeing the most play with a little un. I'm playing this exclusively on the app nowadays, and she gets a kick out of selecting the row or column for me and then feeding the cats. Looks like we were 3-2 in games against the AI in Feb. Need to up our game. Legacy of You, the solo-only legacy campaign worker placement game, is pitched perfect for my anti-campaign legacy game point of view. It saw half a dozen playthroughs in Feb, and things are getting tense as I think I'm at 6 wins and 5 losses, with 7 of either signalling the end of things. The legacy elements just about stop the game from becoming too repetitive, and I've really enjoyed this game immensely. March should see how this one ultimately pans out. And finally, another campaign game, Tainted Grail, saw its conclusion in February. It's a crazy thing that I think of this game so highly, both from a mechanical perspective and a storytelling one, yet even though my character progression felt rewarding, I just don't have the patience for a lengthy campaign like this. I was quite frankly exhausted by the end of it. I'll always have fond memories of playing it, but the fact that the game is this good also cemented my feeling that I do not get enough out of campaign games for me to gravitate towards them moving forward. Still, a good old Arthurian yarn this one, much good. Holy crap, this is hard work keeping up with this journal. I am, if I'm going to continue these, going to have to be more succinct when I talk about these games. From Gaia Project on, we did it that way, and it might need to be that way moving forward, methinks. It's almost time to start consolidating my thoughts on March for Tempest Future's sakes. Anyways, this was the table of awesomeness that was my gameplay experiences in February of the 2024. Alas, I've been the voice of Benji, and this video has ended.